informed us. Today we met with Charlotta Jacks, chair of the planning department. Alex was there. Alex has been very firm in his support for us. Very firm, particularly in the last couple of weeks, very, very firm. It's really been reassuring.
Has that changed?
No, it has not changed. But he's always been great. So Aaron and Bob have drawn up a plan for a series of proposed meetings along this corridor that I'll have every share and let the board members look at it. It involves a series of 5 or 6 meetings with a framework committee to try to deal with the input that we get. It's a mini version of the master plan, but with a much narrower focus along those impacted streets on Monroe. And it involves a series of public meetings, many of which will be board and planning committee meetings. Brace yourself. But that's okay. We need to get good public input at it, and that's a way to do it without completely crippling ourselves, and to do this rapidly, but not having to treble our schedules or double our schedules, which is just, I'd rather blow the rest of the night than, I wouldn't even say blow it, I'd just rather have it.
The feedback sessions are actually in our time.
Yeah, in our time, so we'll figure out a way to do those.
I just
and
want to make sure I
handle-
understand.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And they're still going to require some additional outreach along the streets there. And for example, Robin lives on one of those, but a bunch of people do. We have a good group of citizens from the Monroe Drive process who are really focused on improving Monroe there, and that's part of this plan. But there's some real concerns here that if we're not very, very careful, this thing will get away from us, and this is a chance to try to. And so Charlotte, it folded into good planning logic. Charlotta was encouraging. She does see it as an anomalous and odd piece of land and does not believe that there's any reason this cannot be stopped right there. And she argued that she agreed with the premises, that it logically could and should be stopped right there. We just need to figure out how that's done exactly from a planning point of view. That's nobody better than Bob Zeckler. Nobody better than Bob Zeckler, Aaron Fortner to come up with logical reasons that will be much more difficult for anyone to try to change in the next 10 to 15 years. Because what we don't want to do is be back here wherever the poor schmoes are, sitting at this table in 8 years trying to redo this. So that's the plan. It also costs money.
So Jack, what about the roundabout down there at Park and Monroe?
Well, the roundabout is part of the traffic concept there, and I hope that will go in, because one of the premises of it, it wasn't detailed in that, but one of the premises for that, there is room to do it. The planning department supported it back in the day, is that we're trying to slow the traffic down and preserve the R4 nature of the street. So I think that has a chance to be looked at, and we hope we get all that installed and keep that, slow the traffic down. And
Well, that's part of the definition though of that item in the infrastructure bond.
the complete streets. And Aaron and Alex has requested some estimates from the planning department about what it would take to do these items, cost-wise.
That would be the roundabout at Park as well.
That's right, it's Park, not Amsterdam. Amsterdam's quite big enough. We'd have to take some property from folks, and that's not complicated at this point. But Park is doable, and Park would have a massive influence on it. That would really chill it right in the middle of the speedway from 10th to Amsterdam. That would be awesome. Now, Jennifer brought up a tale here today of trying to get over the park with her kids on bikes, and what a nightmare it was. And so we have some challenges, Jess, I'll already talk to you about it, but and the roundabout won't exactly solve that. It'll help, because traffic would be slowing and there'd be an island in the
You
middle.
still need a way for people to get across the street.
So we got things to work on here. We don't have all the answers, and we got a lot of challenges, but we got, so that's the plan.
To get it.
So I'm here with a proposal that we allot for the opening rounds of this, $15,000 to get us through the first round of this, with the understanding that if it really goes south, if we really have a huge effort here, the price could be double,
Is that
2.5
in addition to
times
what we
that.
approved?
Well, it is in addition to what we approved for the overlay district pieces here, okay? But
We approved something last.
we only produced $5,000, I think, for this, and I want to get it up so that we can.
Yeah, it's not the overlay.
This is not the overlay. This is. We also talked about the overlay. I'll just mention parenthetically today, and
These two are not and should not often be talked about at the same
they're
time.
not the same things at all. They're quite distinct, one from the other. They really have nothing to do with one other than the fact that they're occurring in some proximity to one another, and it's going to be easy for the confusion to manifest, but we don't want it to. So we're really asking for the money here to kick off this initial round, and I will just say, as many of you have seen before, I mean, Aaron and Bob, I'm convinced, are the two best individuals in the city of Atlanta to lead this effort.
And that covers this paper?
No, it covers about a third of that paper, but to some degree, there are variables in this, and we just want to get it going here and see how it develops, and we'll be coming back and informing the board of costs, and these are estimates that they put together, and there are variables in there. We may be able to assume some of the work if we can do the meetings, a lot of the meetings, for example. Jennifer and I can do some of those with you and others, and to try to get some buy-in along the corridor, because it's a tricky thing. We're really worried about Amsterdam. Really, it's a big C1 property. Tons of stuff could go in there, and believe
We've
me.
already had issues.
Yeah, so we need to get on that and get with the residents on Orm Circle down there and park, and really just, it's going to be a lot of talking. And so that's my proposal, that's my motion.
Basically, you're asking for this beginning phase to add 10,000 to what we're looking
I want a total of $15,000.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were going to cover last.
Okay. Is that that's my motion.
One second.
Any discussion further?
I'd like a more detailed outline of the phases that are anticipated for the strategic framework plan schedule for that.
Yeah, we'll have to, Monroe needs to be folded in there, and we're likely to be.
I think you're gonna, I think that residents are gonna want to talk about the Monroe diet at the same time as this.
Yeah, I think
And I think you're gonna,
I think it'll be a part of what Aaron and Bob
well,
talked
no,
about.
well, I
as
mean,
far as-
just to give you an example, that we had one of my neighbors on Elmwood sent an email out this last week about, she's been watching the infrastructure bond, and said, well, I see where bike lines were approved, south of 10th Street to Boulevard, but not north of 10th Street on Monroe. So it doesn't look like we're getting anything but traffic lights on north of 10th Street.
So do this.
I'm just giving you an example.
It's a good example.
That, you know, when you talk about, you know, they're gonna, you know, we're talking about, you know, trying to stop this density from spreading anything, and from there, they've all, you know, that's not what they want to talk about. So we would get a long way in that conversation of just being able to talk about that in some ways in order to get them to talk about what we want them to talk
Well,
about.
one thing
If
we
that makes
don't
sense
want
to
to
you.
do is reignite a road diet conversation in a, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think that
No,
Aaron
but it
and
is what
Bob
it
will-
is.
no, Aaron and Bob will talk about the impacts of this triangular portion and how it affects the surrounding area, and they would talk about the road diet. But I think we need to be careful, this is me just talking out loud, I think we need to be careful of bringing in, reevaluating and talking about something that we already have.
No. We're very supportive of the road diet. They actually wanted to happen. And they were disappointed to see that it was not, from their standpoint, all they're getting is cleaned up lights.
My suggestion would be that, for those particularly to Jess, because she follows that stuff, but we both say, well, that's just not right, so we can help illuminate that. That's
All
just it.
I was saying is
Yeah.
that if you don't want to spend time talking about the road diet, we will do well to get some information about the road
I
diet
do want,
out to them beforehand, so we
Probably, I
don't.
got you. I do want to talk about it. I do want to talk about
That's
it.
part of the complete
That's
street
right.
proposal.
That's
The
right.
bike lanes are incorporated in
Right.
it, it's just not specifically.
I do want to talk about it, and there's even better news, because Joel Mann is going to be the transportation consultant that is going to do the Monroe 10th Street piece. And Joel is the guy that has done all the work on the master plan and did the work on, there was a consultant that met with Jennifer and the Elmwood neighbors on the other side. And nobody knows the corridor better, and nobody is more at ease on his feet, and nobody appreciates the challenges in this neighborhood better. So he'll do great.
And they're ready to storm City Hall and ask for a four-way stop sign at Elmwood and
Well, maybe we can channel that energy in a note to
Right.
me or Jess to the planning committee, and we can try to do something useful with it. But let's get going on that. because that energy in the right
Right.
vein can do something, and it won't do a bit of good to Storm City Hall either, so.
I think it would help if the Monroe Complete Street were itemized, what the components of it were, and that way.
But it's not, even from the city, they say, oh, well, we would have to have a traffic study to see, because each complete street is an examination of the street, blah, blah, blah. So, no one knows, but complete streets are on there. I think the disconnect is between that, okay, now we have the funding, now it's approved, it was on the list that council voted on, where do we go next? I think that's where I lose the train of thought, and I don't know what to tell neighbors either, like, it could be this fall, it could be 5 years. So just, I would like more understanding.
Sure. I think those are good things to get, and we need to get them, and I think the good news is that all these things are gonna be in this package. I mean, I think this is a way to do all these things at once and protect the very things, all these other pieces that we want. And I'd like to try to channel all that energy into one direction the best we can. Knowing that it won't be perfect, but we should try, and I think we can. I really think that this is an informed, bright group of people, and if we, this is not the overlay, so we're trying to separate it so that discussion doesn't get in there. We're gonna get to that discussion when the time comes to get
And
to
who's
it.
on the steering committee?
We haven't fully appointed it yet, so we can talk about that, and we have to do that. Meanwhile, there's a motion on the floor in a second. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead and do the motion then. I'll-
Is there any further discussion? Let's get a vote on that to approve
Well,
the 50.
And could we also condition it on like a set of deliverables or something? Like, just hire them for general meetings, that's,
Well, I'd be glad to ask them to,
Well, there's the addition right on
I think they've actually in fact already delivered some of the pieces, but the fact is, just like the master plan, we don't exactly know what the content's gonna be, because we have to do the public output to get, the public outreach to get some of the content.
But you know a document's going to be generated.
We do know a document will be generated, we do know it will reflect planning priority, we do know it'll be vetted through the City of Atlanta Planning Committee.
I'd like it to be enough to say, if you need a traffic study to do the Monroe Complete Street, is this something that the city would accept as that type of level of review? That would be awesome. Like if we could just.
Well, we do
deliver
have
it.
Aaron's assurance that that will be the case. I mean, I think we have that, I think.
I'd love to get it in writing before we give them money.
Well, I don't think we're going to give them money. The thing is, we did just have the meeting today, so I think the point is we know that we've already approved a certain amount to get going, so the point was to get our phase one, and we can circulate the refined, based on today's meeting, the refined schedule and deliverables. But I think because of the timeline, because there's pressure for this, we're already asking for a delay in the application to be filed and things like that. So it's been working out well as far as all of us being able to work together, but there's only so long we can delay, so we don't want to wait too long. So I would just, I guess, add, I'm comfortable with approving it, knowing that we will get a refined estimate from Aaron. I would say, I mean, we can ask him and he can get it to us as early as next week.
But I'd be happy if you talk to him about it too, just to make sure you get what you think it needs to have in there. I have no problem with that at all.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure he could do that for us pretty easily, just based on what he has used in his mind to create this. Just getting it on paper would be.
Okay, well, I'm happy to have you do that. Meanwhile, I'd like to go ahead with the motion if you could, condition of the fact that you can do that. If you don't, he's not gonna get that much money out of us before the next meeting, so, because he bills so slowly, among other attributes. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, Winnie, you had a comment?
I just wanted to ask about the overlay. Will that cover the entire Virginia-Highland residential area?
So on a totally different note, I always like to say that because we
Yeah.
end up talking to the same people about the same topic, and so sometimes they get mixed up. But yes, so the residential overlay zoning, do you want me to just summarize as best I can? So we do have an estimate, and we have approval for the first phase of working on that, which was to basically inventory the neighborhood. If we plan to do an overlay zoning of any kind or design guidelines, what we want to know is what is the built environment, what is it that we are trying to identify as the best characteristics in both scale and mass and some design features. So that was to do an inventory, but yes, it would be neighborhood-wide, residential, not commercial. And so we've been working to get a meeting on the books with Charlotta and Alex to be in the meeting, and we did have that meeting today. It was pretty interesting. I think it's kind of typical and long-standing that the city likes, to see things kind of be able to be utilized citywide. It gets difficult to have a lot of overlay zoning for them. They don't have, the staff to apply that or police that and see the applications. So she actually was supportive of the concept of us working on a design district overlay for us to end up being sort of a pilot program for how that could work, and said that there are quite a few neighborhoods that it's pretty clear and obvious that neighborhoods need something like this, but that the preservation, the historic districts are difficult, and that not everybody, some of the conversation was that not everything needs to be necessarily preserved. Sometimes we're preserving a culture, or just the way a neighborhood is unique because obviously our lot sizes are different than, ours are smaller than a lot of surrounding neighborhoods. So some of the pressures we're seeing have to do with that. So she was supportive of it, and it's one of those things where, Virginia-Highland can, and often does, lead the way on creating a mechanism that others may follow. What that means is it could take a little bit longer to do, and we also talked about the fact that we don't have a lot of time. So we just had this meeting today. We don't have a lot of time in that, basically, where there's a lot of development going on. So we want to be sure that we can get this in play if it can be done as soon as possible. So I think we're going to come back. The money that we already approved, I want us to regroup with Aaron and Bob Zeckler and talk about it and look at what that plan will look like now, time-wise. And so we'll be coming back to you all. So we will not be spending any of that money right away before we look at how we'll tackle it now based on Charlotta's input.
Do
But
they
I
have
feel
the capacity to work on both projects at the same
That's a good question.
In fact, it's actually, because they are also a part of, the conversation did come up with the review and revision of our ordinances. In many ways, they're the right group to do it because they're looking at our current ordinances and what issues all the neighborhoods are having with them today. And could even make recommendations about something.
I don't question their being the right people on this question.
Well, that's a part of my segue into it. I assume so. I think like any business, they're going to, if they said that they can handle something, the same as anybody that takes in a project, then I would assume they can handle it. I think that they would not take it on, and it wouldn't be good for any of their other projects or their reputation if they couldn't handle it, didn't have the bandwidth to work on it.
I think she may have been talking about us. Can we do it both at the same time?
I think she said they.
I said they.
Okay, well, Dave, that's a
Well, I
great
say
answer.
they because we're basically dependent on them. Not say that there's another
They
question,
didn't
could we
voice
do it
any
at the same
concern
time?
about that, so.
So
I
they're
would
the
say no.
cities, as Walter said, they're the cities. They've also been hired by the city. They're representing us today with the city. And they've separately been hired by the city to lead and guide the process for the revamping of all of the ordinances, which we are trying to amend, even as they try to consider how to revise them all together.
And that'll take a long time to revise the whole
Which we-
zoning.
That was our point today, that we don't feel, we'd rather not wait. And her point was, but it doesn't make, we need to, let's think this through so that we don't,
Well,
we'll work it out. We'll work
The
it
reason
out.
I asked that question is because we do have, like, single-family R4 mostly, but we also have Greenwood and St. Charles, which are RG properties. So would the overlay be the same for the RGs and the R4s?
I would think that there would be specific attention to the differences in those. You would have to address that, so.
Surely you would, yeah.
But the one thing that Charlotte, something came up, so just to follow up on that, we said, we don't think we can wait until the ordinances are revised. It just doesn't make sense for the practice. So that's where we came to us we could potentially be a pilot program, but it would also involve reaching out to other neighborhoods that are expressing, I guess, concern with the type of development they're seeing, and talking about this type of mechanism that we're working on it. So do it a little bit more with a group of neighborhoods approaching it, even though we would be certainly the lead in trying to get it implemented here first. That's way down the line. If,
Did she say what other neighborhoods?
Is there a specific ones you're talking about?
No, I don't know how this is gonna work, and in fact, I think the more I think about this, probably Aaron and Bob are the only people who can answer that question. And there's so many variables in this. If this thing, if we can get our piece going smoothly here on Run Road, which is a big challenge, which we have to do right now.
Well, that was my point. We're asking the question,
This
is
has to
that
be
you kind
done.
of said, we have right now, and then we have another one, we can't wait.
Well,
And
no,
which-
we meant we couldn't wait for the 2 or 3
No, I
years it
understand.
would take that Winnie
I
was
understand.
talking about, but this has
But
to
there
be
is
done.
I mean, it is true that you can't wait also, because we just listened to 10 things tonight. You know, and next month, we're gonna listen to another 10 things.
Those are different than, but, I mean, it's good when we hear those. Those are better for the neighborhood when we actually get to see them experiences than the ones that we don't see. But
But you're right. I mean, there's pressure. We know it. That was our response.
Right now, right down Crest Hill, we just went
Well,
from 2 on the left, 2 on the street to 5 on the
It's not the ones we see here that bother me anyways, the tear downs and goodbye. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
that's
us
it.
for any
Where you
variance.
tear the houses down,
Right.
and building them back
Three.
in.
So, right. It's not- The last thing is, I want to bring up is, I think we need a bylaws expansion committee. I mean, a bylaws revision committee. We have some bylaws we'd like to clean up this year. And I'd like to appoint Jenny Ferraro, former board member who led the last one, to do it, and let her make some suggestions about who else can be on. Can we do that? We'll get to approve recommending them, but we need them probably ready for August if we do that. It's not that far away, really.
she helped with the last ones, right? And she's
Yeah.
helping with the VHCA.
Right. She's good at it. Can we create this and nominate her to be the chair of it and let her flesh it out? She'll make some suggestions.
She's agreed to do it.
I'm sure she will. No, she agreed to, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. And if she's not, we'll come back next month. I'm sure. Oh, I want to, 2 things, please, if we can. We need to adjourn the, I want to appoint the next month's meeting is the day after Summerfest, so brace yourself, and we'll try to get all the planning done and keep it quick, but good Lord, if there's nothing else to come before us, I'd like to adjourn the meeting and ask the board members, hang around, we'll try to be 2 minutes on a issue that we need to know.